After 10 years of coaching experience as an international master, this is the easiest opening. I recommend you play under 2000 ELO to crush anyone. I'm gonna show you exactly how to beat your opponent from start to finish, how you need to think. So you play the move d6 first against absolutely everything. You don't care if they play e4, d4, c4. Here, you can even play e5 immediately. e5 is the key idea of this opening. And you're attacking that pawn, and of course they can immediately take it. And that is like the highest win rate variation. I have a lot of videos on the endgame in the playlist, definitely take a look. My opponent plays d5 instead, and here we can go ahead and play f5 and be very active from the very beginning. The best advantage of the opening that I recommend you try that transform your chess forever is that it's really simple to start playing, and you can literally do it today. Because you don't focus on memorizing stuff, you focus on understanding the ideas. Like if he closes the center, we have this pawn chain, we want to continue it. This is like a hint for you to understand what you're supposed to play. And we can play f5 immediately. And our opponent has to understand what on earth is he supposed to do. But because it's such a rare opening, he sees this like once out of 200 games, doesn't have any idea how to play, so we immediately get advantage. He plays e4, which is actually quite a good move. I don't know, we can start with knight f6, we can take the pawn on e4. In most of the cases that leads to the main line, but yeah, let's play knight f6. We want to develop all of our pieces as fast as possible, so this knight belongs to f6. We play bishop to e7, and then we castle. Alright, he plays bishop g7. Bishop g5. We can actually continue and play bishop e7 anyway. So I see this position for more or less the first time in my life. I haven't memorized it, I just understand the ideas. And that is the kind of understanding you can expect if you join 10-day opening mastery, my program that helps you to build an entire opening repertoire both for white and black. Right now, if you join, the link is in the description, you get a full month of live coaching with me completely for free. Don't miss the opportunity. Alright, he takes, but now we get a pair of bishops out of the opening completely for free. That is tremendous. He plays knight to c3. We just ignore it. Let's castle. The golden principle is you want to spend just one move on every single piece that you develop. That way you develop every single one as fast as possible. You only do an exception like this bishop f6 was the second move when you really have a very good reason to achieve that, to do that. And in this case, that's of course true because we needed to take the piece back. Bishop d3. You always think about the opponent's threats. I think he wants to take and then place this knight on e4. I never want to allow that. So I'm simply gonna play f4. That way, I'm gonna make sure that both of those pieces are stupid. They're just staring at this e4 pawn, and I don't allow my opponent an easy counterplay. Whereas I go forward, and you know, I get a lot of space here. Notice that I continue this pawn chain. Yes, my bishop on f6 might not be the most powerful right now, but we are definitely gonna improve that. First, I want to continue my development. You remember the golden principles? So I have a choice. I have here bishop to g4, which feels interesting, as it creates a pin if he plays h3, just bishop h5, but I a little bit don't like that he can play bishop e2. But then still, it's not like he can do much. Maybe not, because this bishop is stupid anyway. Why should I help him try to exchange it? Instead, I'm gonna play knight b to d7. That is a very typical move in this opening, something you should always try to do, as this knight belongs on c5. This is like the best square you can imagine for it, and it's gonna control a lot, it's gonna attack, put pressure on the opponent's position. But you don't want it to be kicked away with b4. So before playing knight c5, we play a5, make sure that b4 is not possible. He can still play it eventually, but that is also connected to some risks. We're going to take it, open up the a file, create some pressure over there. So we play a5, and next move knight to c5. This bishop on c8, don't worry too much about it in the very beginning. It stays there for a little bit longer, and then you decide later what to do with it. Knight to c5. Yeah, that knight is fantastic. And now it all depends what he does with his king. Depending on that, we are going to either go all in into the attack on the king side if he plays short castles, Or if he goes the other way around, then we should be a little bit more strategic, maybe start an attack on the queen side. If the center is completely closed, as is here, the pawn storms are much more important and efficient. I'm going to start with bishop d7. That would complete the development of my minor pieces, and my major pieces are connected now. This is very cool. Let's see what he does. Probably he's gonna castle long. No, he castles short. That's a bit unexpected. But that means the king is there, so I'm gonna go ahead and try to attack him. There is no question about that. This is the best strategy. He played bishop b2, so maybe he prepares something like knight h4 and trying to exchange that bishop, because if all of his pawns are on the light squares, his bishop is really stupid. I'm not sure if I can really stop that. Like, I can play queen e8, knight h2, h5, but he still can go queen d1. Then I can play g6, and for now nothing moves. And then I can slowly improve my position to make progress to make that g5 move possible. I like it. Queen to e8 is a useful move for me anyway, because it goes into the direction of the king of my opponent. That means that he wants to play on the queen side and try to crush me here before I can create some dangerous threats against the king. But we have a big advantage. We attack the king. We want to deliver a checkmate, whereas he, well, in the best case scenario, might win a pawn here or create a weakness or something. It's much more interesting to attack your opponent's king. Okay, bishop g4 I think is still on his agenda. So I'm gonna go ahead and play h5. But if he doesn't play knight h2, well, maybe it's still the same idea. He can play queen d1 anyway. No, he goes knight d3. He has something completely different in mind. Knight d3 is a typical idea, but I can answer with b6, just making sure that this knight is well protected. If he takes, I take back with the pawn, and it's very difficult for him to break through here. Whereas I'm gonna go ahead, I'm gonna play g5, maybe king f7, rook g8, and g4, and try to give him a checkmate. Very simple plan, yet very efficient. Let's see whether we are gonna succeed with that. Knight goes to d1. It's difficult for me to understand what he's doing. He proposes a takeback. Maybe that was somehow coincidental. Let's do that. Okay, queen to d1. Yeah, queen to d1 makes more sense to attack the h5 pawn. But like I said, my idea was to play g6. Of course, I never play h4 to make bishop g4 possible to essentially kill my own attack. No, instead I want to slowly make g5, g4 possible. Maybe though, considering this, it was better for me to take on d3 and play g5 immediately. But he still has queen d1. I mean, the problem does not disappear. So I should try to make it possible. First of all, what I like is I feel like I'm in total control. It's not like he can create anything dangerous for me. So I just have time to slowly prepare my attack. Maybe even bring the king all the way to e7 when the center is completely closed. That's not stupid. So that I can bring both of my rooks to h8 and g8 and push. But he plays g4, which is strategically a completely wrong idea. It might work by some miracle tactically here, but I don't believe in it. First of all, why can't I just take en passant, and then the h3 pawn would be hanging? So this is basically a pawn sacrifice. Yes, I get it that he opens up the f-file, but I don't think it's enough. Like, you never want to play on the side of the board where you're weaker. I am definitely stronger on this side of the board. If we only make moves only on this part, I'm gonna always win. So instead, he should try to orchestrate his play on the queen side. He doesn't do that. And playing from your king like that is super dangerous. I'm going to take it. I'm going to call his bluff, take on h3 with the tempo, by the way. I feel like that only helps me to continue my attack. Yes, maybe I also need to be a little bit careful with my king, but I feel like it's pretty safe. I can even play king to g7, I don't know, queen is7, bishop g5. My bishop that in the beginning we felt like it's not active enough. Well, now with this move g4, exchanging those pawns, the bishop will go to g5 and would be extremely active. In fact, I should either do it immediately here or after queen is7, just to connect my rooks, so that after rook takes f8, I can take back with the rook, not wasting time. But bishop g5 immediately is also interesting. Rook takes f8, queen takes f8, bishop e3 check, followed up by queen f2 is like extremely dangerous. He's gonna play king f2 probably and try to hold on to it. I don't know, I'm gonna play strategically, so I show you all of the plan and it can be instructive for you. But bishop g5 feels to be pretty much unstoppable. Maybe I have underestimated some ideas like bishop h5 sacrifice, but I don't believe it can work. I even have queen to h7 and then just offering the queen's exchange. Okay, he does play king h2 because he wants to get rid of my bishop, which is reasonable. But at the same time, that means that that king also won't be really secure. h4 at some point would make sense to open up the h file, bring my rook there, and destroy him. Or maybe I can start with bishop g5, then I can play h4, and once he takes, I play bishop f4 check, and then the queen comes to h4, and that feels devastating for him. Yes, he wants to double on the f file with the rooks, at least to fight for the f file. That is correct, but that doesn't really stop all of the ideas I have. I can play immediately h4. That is a little bit double-edged because I open up the h file as well. Probably not needed. Just let's play bishop g5. Don't forget that I'm a pawn up. So basically, once he plays rook f1, I can just exchange it, play rook to f8, and exchange all of the rooks, and the attack is still continuing. Maybe he argues that in the endgame it's not going to be that simple for me to convert the advantage, but I doubt it. I have a pair of bishops. Both of them are going to be very active. Yes, I think that is very instructive, very simple. I combine kind of the ideas of attacking my opponent's king with strategic ideas of having an extra pawn, exchanging stuff, going into the endgame, and convert that. Not every checkmating attack must end in a checkmate. If you can just convert it to a much better endgame, that is a cool achievement. You don't need anything else. So now I control the f file, I'm threatening queen f2 with devastating effect. So I think he must play that. And now we got ourselves into this endgame, which would be very instructive. First of all, I like that he still has the light squares bishop. He never was able to exchange it. And when he has all of the pawns on the light squares, this bishop is going to be stupid. Unlike my bishop, even though I have dark squares bishop, all of the pawns on the dark squares, I can get it to like d4, where it's going to control so much. Let's do it. If you want to play online but on a real chessboard, Chessnut makes it possible. I have this amazing Chessnut Evo for more than a year now, and it completely changed how I play and train chess. I have this real pieces feeling, but I play on chess.com or Lichess. I also have my books and studies here, everything in one place, no distractions. Chessnut has a variety of different boards, so you will definitely find exactly what you need, and you get a massive discount if you use the promo code journeytograndmaster on all Chessnut products. The link is in the description. Wait, one thing that I completely forgot about. That might be quite a big mistake, which is a good example to say never relax too much, always think about your opponent. Guess here knight to b5 idea, which attacks the c7 pawn and kind of forces me to exchange the knight, but then we are going to get opposite colors bishops, which increases the chance of a draw dramatically. He doesn't play it. I think it's a big mistake. Because now I can play bishop d4, and I basically just wants to trade, and then we have same colors bishops. I have an extra pawn. That is a huge chance for me to win. But if he plays knight b5, now in the same line I would pick up the second pawn and create a passer for myself. That should be enough for a win. So I think knight b5 was a big chance for him. Obviously I'm still much better, but he's fighting. Alright, now I think I should just take. I cannot imagine he can save that position. Again, it's not super simple for me, but I can create a passer over there and then use that to distract him and just penetrate with my king. Yes, I think that works. Do I have any alternatives? He probably wants to play bishop a4, although that again makes bishop c3, bishop b2 possible. Then I'm not going to have an extra pawn, and even 2 extra pawns might not be enough if it's opposite color's bishop. So to avoid all of those problems, I'm going to just take it, be on a safe side, because that is a technical endgame that I'm sure is much better for me. We both have those double pawns along the c file, so essentially the only difference is this king side where I have an extra pawn, as well as the pawn structure, because those key pawns are all on the light squares, which makes my bishop better. I'm always able to attack it, whereas he is going to be passively defending it. But first, we need to improve the king. Most of the players forget how important the king in the endgame is. I want you to never do that and go ahead with your king. That is a fighting warrior that I want us to use. We can get it to g5, then we can play bishop g4. Like the nice thing for us is all of our pawns are on the dark squares, so he can never attack it with the bishop. So we have nothing to be afraid of. Let's play. I don't even know. Is there a difference? Probably not. King f6, king g4, a3. Yes, a3 is reasonable. By the way, I can play bishop a4 now that he played bishop e2. Let's try it. I think we don't lose anything if we try, because if I can get somewhere to c2, that is some additional pressure for him. Maybe bishop king g5 and bishop g4 was even better, so that he has to go like d3 and then I play to d1 and his bishop almost has 0 moves to go. But it should be winning regardless. g4. Yeah, that is the move I thought about, but I thought it can never help him. Maybe I was wrong about that. Well, to say the least, that creates yet another light square weakness for him. But I have to be careful. If I play something like h4, I need to make sure I have ways to penetrate later on. Otherwise, it's going to be a draw. But I don't think it's going to be a draw. I play h4, then I play king to g5, then I simply attack this pawn. And he has to go, yeah, that is simply winning. If he goes to f3, I just win the pawn. But if he goes to h3, then I'm going to penetrate with king to f4. Yes, that's what he does. I mean, I understand. The point is that he wants to grab the h4 pawn, but if I can penetrate with my king, I don't think then that the h4 pawn would be important. Okay, he goes backwards. Just king f4 now. Now I can even support. I think he must have stayed on h3. But he doesn't really have moves. Like, if he would have played bishop f3, I would just take it. If he goes somewhere else, I would play bishop d1 and grab in the g4 pawn. So he simply doesn't even have tempi. But now I'm happy to play g5, of course. And that is total domination. This is like a dream when both of you have light squares bishops, to have all of your pawns on the dark squares, so your opponent cannot attack it, and all of his pawns are weaknesses. Now you should just start picking up all of those pawns, for example with bishop c2. Even my king is on the dark square, so he can never give me a check. This is how powerful this opening is. But what if our opponents plays the move e4? How to handle it? You start the same way. You play the move d6, it's incredibly solid, it works against everything, and you don't need to memorize so many moves. I love it so much, so as hundreds of my students, it brought them hundreds of elo points, and you are the next one. So knight c3, and now we have the key position here after the move e5. They have a big choice. We play against 2000 elo opponent exactly, so he can take, which leads to my favorite line, the Philidor endgame here. Don't be afraid of it. It's a fantastic variation, highest win rate line that I know from my entire chess career, because people just first don't understand how to play it. Second, it's very easy to play it as black. Third, you're going to learn so much if you play that. You're going to improve your endgame technique. One thing that I want you to know, this c6 move is a key in this opening. You want to make sure that this knight on c3 is useless. It cannot go forward. That is why we play c6. Next, once they castle, we are ready to play knight d7, absolutely zero problems. And the king in the center, it's a problem if there are queens on the board, because you can be checkmated, it's super dangerous, right? But if there are no queens on the board, then the king is actually good in the center. It's going to control a lot of stuff. Alright, knight f3, always be careful with the threats, regardless of the opening, you might easily lose. And this e5 pawn, if you blunder it, please don't come to the comments and say the opening is so bad. No, that is just because you blundered the key pawn of the entire opening. Never do that, always be careful how many attackers, how many defenders, but we can simply play knight b to d7, don't really care about anything. Remember, as always, this bishop on c8, it stays there for longer, no problem. And after castles, this is how most of your players are gonna play, so very, very instructive. There is a pin, so again, this e5 pawn is hanging. We simply play king to e8. Now there is no pin, and the e5 pawn is protected. And we are ready to launch our main counterplay. I want you to really understand this plan. Very, very simple. Just push your queenside pawns. b5, a5, a4, b4, stuff like that. It works especially well if they play bishop c4, which they usually do, because that's the most active square for the bishop to go. And then we play b5 with the tempo. But if they don't develop the bishop there, then they should go to like e2 or something where it's very passive. Also fine for us. Yes, they play bishop c4, and now we simply go b5. Don't be afraid of sacrifices, it doesn't work, as long as your knight is already on d7. And now they should, normally they play bishop b3 to stay along this long diagonal, but we are going to continue with a5 and just threaten to win the bishop immediately. a5, move with the tempo. You always want to make those very tempy moves in chess, where you improve your position, you do something very useful for yourself, and at the same time you create a problem for your opponent. So here, it's only move number 11, yet we are already overtaken the initiative, we are already playing for a win as black. How amazing is that? We play b4, we attack this knight, has to go away, and then the e4 pawn is already hanging. Although I want you to be a little bit careful with that e4 pawn. Not always you really want to take it, as that's gonna open up the e-file, and that might be really dangerous for your king. As long as the file is open, the king is never in danger. Alright, bishop takes f6. Do we take it with the knight or with the pawn? Normally we are always happy to take with the pawn. Those double pawns, don't underestimate it, it's super solid. Make sure that this knight cannot do anything. This e5 pawn is protected. Very good, and that is what we can do now. But because we attacked that knight, knight takes f6 is actually also an option, and I want at least to calculate it briefly. But I don't like it. Knight g5 can come attacking the f7 pawn, e5 pawn is hanging. Why do I need to care about all of that? Just take with the pawn, super solid, and I continue my plan where this knight goes to c5. It's gonna attack the bishop on b3, it's gonna attack the central e4 pawn, would be really cool. This bishop can always be developed to h6 even with the check, very nice, it has no opponent. But first, knight c5. You normally want to have it for the future, because your opponent doesn't know where to expect it. It makes it more difficult. But if you immediately play bishop h6, he's gonna play king b1, and he's going to be okay. He doesn't need to calculate it anymore. So you leave those active moves if you don't see it's like winning immediately for later. But knight c5 is also very active. I'm threatening just to grab that essential pawn. Now that there is a pawn on f6, I'm not really afraid of rook e1 anymore. It's all very solid. King to b1. Okay, he doesn't want to wait me to play bishop h6 and goes away voluntarily. But what about the e4 pawn, the central pawn? Remember I told you not to blunder the c5 pawn? This is like the key to success in chess if you play this magic opening, the Philidor defense. But what about this e4 pawn? It's also central, I can just take it. You might have some compensation, but I even attack this f2 pawn. I don't understand it. I think I'm just winning there. But it's already very inconvenient for my opponents to play. I'm already definitely in the driver's seat. I have a pair of bishops, absolutely fantastic position. And that is exactly what you're gonna get once you understand the ideas of the opening. Okay, rook f1. I have so many cool ideas here. I can play bishop c5, developing one of my bishops and attack the f2 pawn again. Or I can play bishop to a6, pinning that guy, developing the second of my bishop. Yeah, I like both of them. I don't know which one to start. This move, bishop a6, really feels cool. It attacks the knight. The knight cannot go away because the rook behind that is hanging. The rook also cannot go away because he just protected the f2 pawn. I'm gonna just take it if he plays rook e1. So feels like he has to play rook d2 e1, but then Yeah, that's also not great because it's like everything is everything cannot move now. This rook is not going anywhere because the f2 pawn is hanging. This rook cannot move because the knight is hanging. The knight cannot move because the rook is hanging. Even this knight on f3 cannot move because knight d2 is a fork with a check. This is so powerful. And now all I need to do is just continue in the same fashion. Not just play with just those pieces, but bring as many as possible. For example, this guy to c5, absolutely fantastic square for it. Next, I can bring my rook to the d file. D file is the only open file. Rooks love open files, so that would be fantastic to bring it there. Maybe even both of the rooks. Like typically you go rook d8, king e7, double the rooks along the d file and penetrate there. One thing you want to be a little bit careful about this knight h4, knight f5 idea, but now it's not even possible as knight d2 would crush him. That is not even the only problem. The second problem is bishop takes f2, threatening both the knight and the rook on e1. Bishop f2 is a big threat in every case, right? If the rook goes away, I just win the knight. If the rook doesn't go away, I just take it. That is why he plays c4. But c4, first it looks ugly for this bishop. Secondly, I can just take en passant. I think it's great for me. He basically has to take with the pawn. Otherwise, if he takes with the knight, I take it with the check and then grab the rook. But then the b file is going to be opened, so I can use that for my rook as well. And secondly, I think I have some direct tactics. Like bishop takes e2, followed up by knight takes c3 fork, picking up material. That is great. But that inevitably happens when you make all of those moves forwards, you attack your opponent, and he has to stay passive and defend and not having like this fresh air. It's just not possible to survive. So this is exactly how you use this powerful opening to just destroy anyone under 2000 elo. In this playlist, you can learn so much more about it, so you're prepared against everything. 10-day opening master is now on sale. You get a full month of live coaching with me completely for free. The link is in the description. Don't miss this.